Hello there. Brucie Bear would like to welcome you back to his channel. Once again, it's been an interesting few weeks since we last spoke to you. We've been in Ireland, and Brucie was delighted to discover that the exclusive brethren are not the only source of religious tension on this planet. We've moved on from Ireland, however, and we're in Scotland at the moment. We flew into Glasgow on Monday afternoon, and you should have seen the look on Brucie's face when we stepped off the plane. There was a large sign saying, "Welcome to Scotland," and his eyes lit up with delight. Scotland is the home of Scotch Whiskey. You see, the exclusive brethren are avid drinkers of Scotch Whiskey, and the thought of it brought back all sorts of memories from our days in the church. I've got a bottle here of 12-year-old single malt whiskey, which would be prime for the brethren. Now, we're going to demonstrate how the brethren drink their Scotch whiskey. So what you do is you start with a glass with a bit of ice in the bottom. Then you unpop your Scotch. Now, quantity. This is the important part to remember. When pouring your Scotch, the drink has to be at least 75 to 80% whiskey. Then you top up your whiskey with a fraction of water. There you have it. That is how the exclusive brethren drink their Scotch. So we're just going to sit this drink to one side for a minute while we have a bit of a talk about how this kind of drinking started happening within the church. So we got to thinking about Scotch Whiskey in the exclusive brethren church, and we've been tracking back through the years trying to establish exactly when it was that the drinking regime began. And talking to older former members of the exclusive brethren church, it appears that this drinking began around the 1960s. Prior to the 1960s, the exclusive brethren took a prohibitionist approach to alcohol, believing, along with churches such as the Seventh-day Adventists, the Baptists and the Latter-day Saints, that alcohol should be avoided by those who were seeking to follow their lives according to the scriptures. However, after a change of leadership in the 50s, a new leader came to the helm, and this leader was quite a nervous and shy man, and a family member of his, actually I've got a quote here from a family member of his. What she says is, he was a shy man and gradually found that a few drinks helped him through the meetings. So what he found was that knocking back a couple of scotches before he took a sermon greatly increased his speaking abilities. I'm sure a lot of us could relate to that. Now, this had an interesting effect within the exclusive brethren church, as the large majority of church members didn't recognise the signs of alcohol, and instead it interpreted his drunken state as being the free speaking of the Holy Spirit within the assembly. And I have another quote here from a former member of the church from around that time. Meetings became riotous, a change from the more starchy fare, and were seen by only a few as the advanced stages of alcoholism. So, following on with the thought of alcoholism instead being interpreted as the speaking of the Spirit, this was capitalised on by the leader, and alcohol was taken as being a sign of strength. He made public comments along the lines of, "Alcohol makes a strong man stronger and a weak man weaker," thus turning his vice into a virtue. Alcohol then began to be forced on other members of the church, and members were widely encouraged, and sometimes forced, to drink Scotch on a regular basis. If you refused to drink Scotch, you were seen as rejecting the teachings of the man of God, and as Scotch loosened your tongue, it was also taken that perhaps you were hiding something. If you refused to drink Scotch, you were keeping secrets. This level of drinking carried on for some time, and it reached a point where members were excommunicated if they refused to have Scotch whisky in the house. We would have hoped that this would have ended with the death of this particular leader in 1970, most people say due to alcohol poisoning. Unfortunately, the binge drinking continued through the lines. Subsequent leaders stated that prohibition was abuse of God's gift to mankind, and also that you weren't drunk until you couldn't walk. Ironically enough, the leader who made that particular statement quite literally ended up legless. This drinking culture has continued on through the present day, and in recent years, going back to I think it would be 1999, I was at a meeting within the church where rum, gin and vodka were all forbidden. Now you'd think that would be a bit of a strange quirk given their fascination with Scotch. But you see, gin and vodka were forbidden because they were both clear and you couldn't see how much people were drinking, and rum was forbidden because of its association with sailors. A lot of these sailors are dirty homosexuals, and the Brethren wouldn't have anything to do with those. In fact, in the 80s, or maybe it was the 70s, I'm not quite sure, Brethren were forbidden from ever boarding a cruise ship or a warship, and anyone who had been on board a ship had to fast for 24 hours to cleanse themselves of the evil. On reflection, alcohol has become a defining point within the church. Several of my cousins held the belief that the more alcohol a person was prepared to give you, the better a person that must be. Someone who refused to give you as much whisky as you wanted was a miser. And it wasn't uncommon for young people to drink in the region of half a bottle of whisky a day, and friends of mine in my hometown used to finish off a bottle of whisky between them before they came to church each day. I remember one of my friends apologising to me for turning up to church in a bad mood. His excuse was that he hadn't had enough scotch beforehand. Now, for a lot of young people within the exclusive brethren, this drinking culture has gone too far, and a lot of youths have been submitted to alcohol clinics for drying out and rehabilitation. For some brethren, though, this step comes too late. A young father in New South Wales died 2 or 3 years ago of severe alcohol poisoning. His body was found in the bush, I believe, about a month after he died. A young couple in England also died a couple of years ago, both from alcohol poisoning, both only in their 20s. They left behind a young daughter. But perhaps the most telling incident was the father in Canada who died. It would be about 3 or 4 years ago now. Severe alcohol poisoning once again, and he left behind a wife and a number of children. Now, after he died, his teenage son, who was still in the church, wrote a song to his father, and I'd like to finish this clip with reading a few lines from this song, which I think sum up the result of the alcohol culture within the exclusive brethren today. You've gone, and some say it's for the better. Either way, I'm missing you. It's the good times that make my eyes fill up with tears, and the happy memories make me wish you were here. Well, I know you were gone months before you died. I just wish I had the chance to say goodbye. I know you've gone, but your soul lives on and on with us who care for you. Looking back, I can't get mad at you for all you put us through. But it's when I see a picture of the twinkle in your eyes, it slows me down and stops me. It makes me want to cry. So there you have it. I think that neatly sums up the effect of alcohol within the exclusive brethren today. Cheers.